a lot of English in the early 19th and 20th century were very much in favour of race supremacy. We've got to keep the empire going, dear boy. We can't have those Germans threatening our empire. Do you know that Southwest Africa was part of the German Empire going into World War I? East Africa, part of the German Empire? Do you know the Germans took some islands off the coast of the Philippines or Indonesia? Do you know the Japanese fought with our ancestors in World War I? I've got a book, obviously, that charts how every major war has been financed by the City of London. Every major war. From our country, the City of London, that square mile. We even have expressions. You have a square meal, because our people used to sit on ships when Nelson was fighting Napoleon on the seas, the Mediterranean, the Atlantic, and our sailors would have to sit and eat their food on a square block of wood. That's where we get the expression, the square meal. We don't expect any sympathy from the blacks or the browns on how our people laboured under the weight. You know how the press gangs came about in the 18th century? How hundreds of our people were taken by force by the rulers of this country and forced into the Navy, never ever to see their families again. That's why to this day, the educated people who ran the British Navy, most of them actually come from Southampton and Bournemouth. The working classes who were taken against their will and forcibly put on the ships that built the British Navy in the 18th century, most of them come and live in Portsmouth. So if you go to Portsmouth, you'll come up against some well-armed white boys. If you go to Southampton, everybody's hot. That's another aspect of the history of our country. Do you know about the white slaves that were shipped out of our country from the time of Queen Elizabeth I to that King James I, that man who, of course, is credited with the King James Bible? I'll remind you that King James I was a homosexual and he murdered his own boy lovers. Jesus loved him. So wherever you look in history, whichever angle you look at, you see the hypocrisy, the lies and the deceit. But at least here at Speaker's Corner, I can enjoy telling you aspects of how our country is run by a bunch of mediocre, self-serving. I voted for George Galloway as London Mayor, obviously. At least he speaks openly. It's not about agreeing with him. He's been consistently right on Israel, on Palestine, and on the murder and killing and taking of land of the Palestinian people. He had a 10,000 majority. So what did the Muslim population of Bradford? They didn't vote for him in the last election. That's the level of consciousness amongst the Muslims in Bradford. One white man consistently standing up for them, and they won't even vote for him. This is what happens when you believe in Jesus and you come from Africa. 2,000 years, 400 years of slavery to hold a book commissioned by a white homosexual who murdered his lovers. Yes, I've got gay friends, but only friends. It's staggering what people believe without doing any historical research. Staggering. But I enjoy it and I enjoy speaking about it. It makes me feel good.
What is the answer?
Well, I don't know.
What is Utopia?
Well, I've read Utopia. Actually, our country is Utopia. Utopia is in which, Thomas More, I've read it, is in which the state, the royal family or the rulers employ mercenaries or our own people to fight their wars to create the perfect place. Our country is Utopia. It doesn't mean paradise. It actually means no place. No place. Our country, the world is Utopia. Why is it that man, not us, but certainly why is it that in every country, including our own, a group of men are committed from early age remember years ago when I was speaking over there, and two tall white Americans came up and we started speaking. And they worked for Boeing, one of America's major aviation industries, and they were clearly involved in the manufacturing of cruise missiles. They had no conscience or bothered about it.
It's a long time ago.
It's not. That was about 25 years ago, 24 years ago, and I'm pretty sure all those cruise missiles are placed around America.
25 years ago.
According to Theresa May, there are 17,000, at least 17,000 nuclear weapons on the planet today. Do you think it really matters that we have one submarine carrying one weapon with 40 warheads, because each of those weapons has 40 to 50 missiles in the nose? Today, of course, this week is the anniversary of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, when hundreds of thousands of people in Hiroshima and Nagasaki were vaporized and melted by white America, to remind the Japanese people that they are not superior, that their emperor is not God. Every country, every civilization uses the victory of war to remind their enemies that they're not so special. And our time is just as relevant as yours. We've had more wars amongst ourselves, us English, than I care to imagine. And you have to watch the Yesterday TV programme to see all the skullduggery amongst the royal family in the Middle Ages, and sons plotting against uncles, and uncles plotting against fathers, and murders, and leaving the king to starve to death, locking him in his bedroom, that kind of thing. And then people today dismiss, oh, the royal family would never have blood-drinking ceremonies in Scotland and Balmoral. Have you heard of Bohemian Grove? Yeah. Every president of the United States of America gets the okay, whether he's been a member of the Bohemian Grove cult or doesn't speak about it. They worship an owl. An owl. O-W-L. The wise bird that sees in the dark. Did you know that Washington itself, you can put a photograph of Washington and you can trace an owl from the buildings? Do you know that you can trace, and when you photograph Los Angeles, you can actually see swastikas. You are flying it because the structure of the buildings are shaped in the sacred symbol of the Hindu swastika. You're not going to see it at ground level, but you will see it if you're in a plane. Some of you think these things just happen by mistake. But ask any Hindu who knows about the sacred relevance of a swastika, or a Buddhist. When I was in Malaysia last year, it was quite surprised to see Buddhas with a red swastika. Just small pink Buddhas, 100 of them around a Buddhist shrine. Swastika is a very sacred, ancient symbol. You're going to organise a group of people. Do you know that there are highly proficient magicians and occultists in the German people who knew the effect of the swastika? Do you know the spiritual significance of that? Do you know who gave that to Winston Churchill? Aleister Crowley. Do any of you know what Aleister Crowley was involved in? What he did? What he believed in? I'm not saying anything more than what it is. But Winston Churchill needed some kind of spiel, some kind of thing, so that people could go around, oh, I heard Winston Churchill go like that. In other words, to get the people to remember. It was more luck that this country wasn't conquered by Nazi Germany than anything else. If the Luftwaffe...
People prayed, they had days of prayer to God. That's what saved us. Thanksgiving days of prayer to the Holy God of Abraham.
Abraham is a child molester. Abraham is a child molester. He molested his boy.
God will shut your mouth.
Abraham took his eldest son. Abraham was a raving nationalist.
And salvation.
There is no salvation. There is only death, and the sooner for you the better.
Really? Well, I know different. You
Well,
might,
go to Jesus
you
now.
might want to go down the road, but I know where I'm going. Go where you want to go. I know.
That's fine. I don't want to spend eternity with you. You're not sexy enough. I've still got life in my pants, babe. I have had more sex outside of marriage. I could never follow the teachings of the so-called Holy Bible. And you know why it's called holy? Because it's full of holes. As the great Christopher Hitchens said before he passed into spirit, it is a warrant for ethnic cleansing, trafficking and slavery. Nothing more. You cannot be free if you follow the Holy Bible. Absolutely not. You cannot be free. You need to be saved by the white Jew, the chosen people. What a load of bollocks. Do you know in the Middle Ages the poor in our country used to refer to the Catholic Church as a load of bollocks. But a lot of our history, of course, I went to private school. For the record, I'm half English, the better half. But many of the rural poor in the Middle Ages who didn't read or write, the rest of us English didn't go, you know, when the working class knew they were screwed and stayed on the farms, they referred to the Catholic Church, oh look, there goes a load of bollocks. That's where the expression comes from. I've been reading about how the Catholic Church, not just in our country, but particularly in Northern Europe, stopped the sacred worship of the male penis. And I have it evidentially on a book that I'm going through at the moment. I've always wanted to know this, so I'm going to tell you. But many people, not just our people, but many North European white people, particularly women, would wear necklaces of penises around their neck. And they would worship it as a votive. They would worship it as creation. They would worship it as they worship the sun or the moon or the stars or the fruit or the vegetables. They didn't know why there was life. They didn't know why things lived and died. But they knew that whatever came out of their penis occasionally created a baby. And they worshipped the male phallus. The Romans did it without any hang-up, because they were real men. But many of our ancestors, and particularly Northern Europeans, but over successive centuries, every single Catholic succeeded in stamping it out. Catholic priests would go into villages and tell you, you're not to worship that disgusting, sinful emblem that you've got round your neck. You're not to worship the male penis. It's a sin. That is why to this day Catholics are fucked up and guilty about their penis. And why? Because the Church has always taught that you are a sinner before you are born. The great Christopher Hitchens, I advise you to listen to him debating and defeating Catholic Tony Blair on the internet. It is a brilliant expose of the hypocrisy and deceit of every single Catholic, in which the great Christopher Hitchens debates, articulates, argues and defeats Jews, Christians and Muslims relentlessly. A great man who lived his life to the full, committed man who was courageous not to be scared of death when he knew because of lung and throat cancer his days were very numbered. And of course I enjoyed reading some of his political treatises, particularly the arrest of Henry Kissinger. Those of us that come from an older generation know the evils and machinations of that evil man. Unbelievable how he accomplished those that have protected Henry Kissinger, how he's got away with organising the murder and killing of thousands and maybe millions of brown people in Southeast Asia. As a Jew, he is chosen by God, apparently. I beg to differ. I beg to differ. I have had no experience of a man in the sky telling me that I'm chosen and special. Thank you, young man. Civil War. The United States of America. I think it's good that we've got two very controversial candidates running for the White House. I think it's good. Oh, thank you. I keep knocking the books over. Thank you. I advise you.
Why is it good?
I advise you to think carefully whether you vote again in the remainder of your life. Democracy was, of course, a Greek idea. But it is older than the Quran. It's not a document. It's just simply choosing who rules us, who runs the system. And I can speak for most of us. We've had the Thatcher years, we've had the Blair years. I call you a vet. Fascist. No, him. Fascist. Middle class fascist. I'd have beaten you up if I was in the same private school as you. I'd kick your ass on the rugby field and in the corridor. Young man who hasn't yet learned the art of debating in public. No one beats me in a debate. Well, yeah, interesting, isn't it? Mass debate. Let's go for a mass and masturbate. Interesting how our language is. The coming of the Lord, the load. I masturbate a lot. Still one of the most precious.